Tobias, don't you want everlasting life?
Everlasting life? I can't imagine anything more tedious and boring.
You quit.
It's the first Wednesday of the month, and that means it is time for a little bit more Tales from the Crypt. Stay tuned. Everybody, welcome to the show. I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new review. Again, it is October 1st. It is the first Wednesday of the month. And if you've not been following the show, that means it is time for yet another Tales from the Crypt double feature. We have been following along some Tales from the Crypt episodes on the first Wednesday of every month this year. And with it being October, it's only more important that we hold to this schedule as well. So strap in, as it is time for another double feature. Tonight, we are going to be talking the season 7 episode, The Third Pig, which also serves as the series finale for Tales from the Crypt. And we're going to talk season 2's The Secret, one of the many vampire episodes featured here on the show, albeit with a little twist of its own. I guess every episode has its own twist, but it sounded nice to say that though. Folks, of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, no matter where you are tuning in here to catch this new double feature. If you're a Tales from the Crypt fan, again, you can go and catch my other double features, even a triple feature that I put up throughout this year. I also have episodes in there talking about Demon Knight and some growing up episodes talking about my relationship with Tales from the Crypt. There are plenty of other reviews there for lots of other horror stuff, including TV shows, movies, games, you name it, it is up on the channel. And at the end of the episode, tell you about some of the stuff we have coming up for all of y'all as well too. But let's not waste any more time. We are going to dive right on into things here, folks. Tonight we are starting with the season 7 episode, The Third Pig. Now, based on that name alone, you probably have at least a general idea of what this story is likely going to be about. But as always, as it comes to Crypt, prepare for your expectations to be circumvented just a little bit here. Anyway, let's start off talking a little bit about the Crypt Keeper segment. So, we are at the end of the show at this point, 7 seasons running here, and there's, like there typically is, a very meta joke with the Crypt Keeper looking for new writers and story submissions for future Tales from the Crypt episodes. It's hard not to both laugh and shed a little bit of a tear with the Crypt Keeper looking for more stories to bring in Tales from the Crypt, knowing that this is truly going to be the end. I got a great laugh out of the fun that the Crypt Keeper pokes at old monster movie titles, because like a vampire shows up and is pitching like stories like Son of Dracula, the revenge of the Son of Dracula's Revenge, Return of the Son of Dracula, which cracks me up because as a kid I would like make up random titles like that for like old school like slashers and everything, because I thought that was funny. So very meta, but I enjoyed it very, very much. Now, as for the story here of The Third Pig, again, this is a dark retelling of the Three Little Pigs, maybe a little bit more akin to, you ever read that book, The True Story of the Three Little Pigs? You're going to be hard not to think of that a little bit as you get through this episode here. This focuses on one of our pigs, Dudley, and his 2 brothers who find themselves hunted by a hungry wolf who will stop at nothing to huff, puff, and blow their houses down in order to get himself a nice meal. Dudley, after losing his 2 other brothers, seeks to find a way to stop the wolf once and for all, and comes up with a Frankenstein monster-like robotic creature that will hunt the wolf down. But unfortunately for Dudley, it seems that he too has bitten off a little bit more than he can chew here. And there it is. That is the third pig. Not to call it Three Little Pigs, but that is the third pig. Now, thinking back to what I remember about seeing this for the first time, this is obviously not one I caught on its HBO debut, didn't catch it on a Fox rerun or anything like that, caught it on the sci-fi reruns in the late 90s. And honestly, I'm bummed that this is not one that I saw earlier on, because I do feel had I been much younger catching this episode, I would have bonded with it a lot more. I enjoy this one for sure, but seeing it as a kid, having that animation, being a big fan of the Tales from the Crypt Keeper show, the animated Saturday morning cartoon that was a spinoff from this here, I think it's very easy that if you're watching both of those shows, this episode was going to be a big favorite of yours, especially because Nelvana, the company that produced Tales from the Crypt Keeper, was also behind the animation of this episode as well too. You know, I tried to find more information. I would not be shocked if the third pig ended up being the most expensive or one of the most expensive episodes of Crypt to produce. Maybe Yellow might be more expensive because that had the extended running time in that, but this had to be in the top 5 of expensive episodes due to the animation. And it is interesting because even though Nelvana produced this one, I don't know if I would necessarily argue that the animation looks like it did in Tales from the Crypt Keeper. Weirdly enough, if anything, I thought it seemed a little bit more similar to like Cow and Chicken over off Cartoon Network, or even a little bit like Ren and Stimpy, which I think was Klasky Kupo who was doing that back in the 90s. And if I'm wrong, y'all can definitely tell me that as well too. Animation looks really good here, but again, just interesting that it doesn't necessarily look like Tales from the Crypt Keeper here in this one. But I was big on the true story of the Three Little Pigs as a kid, and there does seem to be a little bit of influence of that here in the story with the pig having the cops called on him instead and being found guilty and having to make the robot and everything. Like, a lot of that seems to have a lot involved with it. So I would have loved this episode. The fact that it is it's a black comedy basically, to where there's not much in the way of scares in this one here. There is like some imagery that can bring some chills to you in this one for sure, but it's very much seemingly intended for like that older, younger audience in this one here. As for the cast, you wouldn't think that an animated episode you would say is star-studded, but realistically, looking back at it here in 2025, it is a really star-studded episode that we have here. The voice cast includes Cam Clark, who you might know played Leonardo in the Ninja Turtles cartoon back in the 80s and the early 90s. He also did Captain Planet. He did Gargoyles. Brad Garrett plays one of the pigs from Everybody Loves Raymond, Casper, the Jetsons movie, Eek the Cat. Charlie Adler, who did Ickis in All Real Monsters. The big heads on Rocko's Modern Life was on Duckman. Bobcat Goldthwait, who already did a Tales from the Crypt episode, or you might know from Police Academy, Hercules, Space Ghost Coast to Coast, Jim Cummings. This is a really stacked voice cast here, especially for Tales from the Crypt. These are notable names, ones that you recognize, and honestly, that actually brings a lot of legitimacy here to this episode. It's able to stand up amongst a lot of the animated stuff that we had coming up throughout the 90s because of the cast and the really clean animation in this one as well too. This is one of the really stronger ones to be out there. Now, as for the twist here on this one, now the wolf is able to kill Dudley's 2 brothers and eat them, and basically Dudley's brothers implore him to take revenge, so Dudley creates a mechanical robotic pig in order to hunt down and kill the wolf for them, which the pig is able to do so, but Dudley realizes he has created a monster and seeks to kill the mechanical robotic pig himself. Eventually he does, but unfortunately for Dudley, the wolf emerges from the robot's body and proceeds to kill and eat Dudley, ending this horrible retelling of the Three Little Pigs. Now, most of the shock in this episode comes from the fact that we are adapting this classic children's story to have a more adult spin on it. And again, like I mentioned, that imagery that's there when the pig is when the wolf is killing Dudley's brother and eventually kills Dudley himself, they are not pulling any punches on this. These are not quick and easy kills. They are bloody, they are gruesome, they are brutal. They go in line with what we've been seeing on the series, and you have to really appreciate that even though it seems like this episode is being geared towards a younger crowd, they are not wavering on the violence and the blood and the brutality that we've seen in this show thus far here. There are a few times throughout the episode as well that I actually thought that the whimsical children's music that they used throughout it and some of the shots, like the robotic pig walking away and things like that, I did think brought a little quick little scares in the episode as well too, which is really good for it. But overall, it is more of a lighthearted episode. It's gruesome and gothic for sure, but it is one of the more lighthearted episodes of the show. Ultimately, this puts my ranking of the third pig at 10 of what we've looked at here thus far. It is ranked number 10. Again, it is one of the most memorable episodes here of the show due to the fact that it has a great animation style, has a great voice cast, and it's telling a tale that most of us are likely already familiar with, just again in a more darker way. But the story itself, because we know that one doesn't necessarily set itself above a number of other episodes that we've watched, to where those original stories, or at least adapted stories from the previous EC comics, they're just a little bit more entertaining to catch. So this is a good episode for sure, but you're going to find better ones in something a little bit more original with this. Let me know what you guys think of this one here in the comments section, because I kind of think this is one that a lot of people don't realize actually exists when it comes to crypt lore. And moving on to our second episode of the evening, we are talking season 2's The Secret. Now, I've mentioned it before, Tales from the Crypt has done a number of episodes that have been focused on vampires throughout its 7-season run. And on top of that, we also have to look at the fact that they made the movie Bordello of Blood, which is focused on vampires too. But what is interesting though, is that it's likely 50-50, and I don't have it pulled up right in front of me this moment, but it's likely 50-50 when you go back and look at these episodes featuring vampires, whether or not they would just be focused on vampires, or it was vampires and something else, because a lot of these episodes, it wasn't just solely about vampires showing up. Now, as for the Crypt Keeper segments, this is earlier on here, so we're not getting much in the color. The Crypt Keeper's not wearing different costumes. For now, he's just chilling in the crypt in his old drab brown robes, and he's reading himself some Charles Twist. Makes sense, because the focus of this episode is an orphan boy who will hopefully get what he's ultimately dreaming and wishing of, but he's reading a little bit of Oliver Twist. And when he goes to introduce the episode, again, something that was pretty common in those first couple of seasons is that he does say the name of the story itself, but he doesn't introduce it the same way that we would really expect, or he would say, I call this one The Secret, you know, something like that. That's not what he's doing here. Instead, he kind of makes an offhanded jest here and says the title of it in there. So it's an interesting way to, again, bring us to the title of the story itself, but doesn't take away from the fact here that this is towards the this is the end of season 2, actually, if I'm right. And you can hear Kassir's voice really moving into that comfortable voice he was using for season 3 and on. So good segments, just very, very normal and plain from what we're expecting. As for the story here of The Secret, Theodore, an orphan child, is sent to stay with new parents, the Colberts, who give him countless gifts and all the food that he can eat. But they also lock him in his room and tend to not really spend any time with them at all, leaving that to their butler, Tobias. Theodore begins to suspect his foster parents are harboring a dark secret, but unfortunately for them, he's harboring one of his own. Weirdly enough, this is not one that I have like any kind of connection to. Didn't catch it on HBO, didn't catch it on Fox, didn't catch it on Sci-Fi. This is one that I for sure ended up catching after I picked up the season 2 DVDs when I was working at Circuit City way back Wednesdays. So this was honestly one of the very few like brand new episodes that I had no kind of relevance for in the least bit. As for the cast, William Frankfather and Grace Zabriskie play Theodore's adoptive parents, the Colberts, and you might recognize Grace Zabriskie from Twin Peaks. I know there are a lot of Twin Peaks fans out there watching the show right now. Larry Drake, who plays the butler Tobias, who a lot of y'all will know obviously from like Darkman and a few other things, is making his second Tales from the Crypt appearance, as he appeared in the fantastic season 1 episode All Through the House. And he's playing obviously a less scary character this time around. That is a memorable one, and it is much more memorable than this episode. But I never mind seeing cast members pop up doing another appearance. Again, just in the third pig, Bobcat Goldthwait was making his second appearance in the show at that time as well too. Mike Simmer, who plays Theodore, does a fine job in a role. It's just that the episode really doesn't have much entertainment until we hit that third act. Most of the episode, we're getting endeared to Theodore and seeing the growing relationship between Theodore and Tobias. Theodore thinks that maybe getting adopted will bring him a closer family, bring him people he can play with, people he can be friends with, actually get love back to him. But the Colberts aren't giving him any of that. So instead, it's left to Tobias to really become Theodore's only friend. So we get to see this loving relationship blooming and everything. But ultimately, nothing of interest is really happening until we get to that third act. And in that third act, the twist comes out that the Colberts are vampires and they adopt children in order to spoil and fatten them up before ultimately eating them. It's an easy way for them to get themselves a free meal. And the night that they plan to eat Theodore, Tobias attempts to help him escape, only to find himself killed and eaten instead. And it's then when it's revealed that Theodore himself is a werewolf and he's got a taste for vampires, who then proceeds to kill and eats the Colberts. After this, Theodore returns to his foster home, letting them know that moving forward, he'll be the one running the show. So this third act is really the crux here of this episode. I'm not going to say it's bad by any means or anything, but there's not much in the way of scares here because they're all restricted to when this twist finally comes out. Like, we don't suspect there's anything nefarious about the Colberts because their secrets and what they're actually looking for literally don't come out till like a minute before we get the twist itself. So we have no reason to think anything nefarious is coming around. It kind of just seems like they're just rich people collecting toys that they ultimately don't really care all that much about at the end of the day. So once we do get to that third act and we're seeing the Colberts as vampires and we're seeing Theodore as a werewolf, we get to see some good FX, some good practical makeup that they use here. Theodore's werewolf design is one of the better ones coming out of the 80s. We're not talking Teen Wolf at the bottom of the spectrum here. This is obviously a little bit more in line with what we're seeing in things like Monster Squad or Fright Night 2 or American Werewolf in London. Obviously the werewolf's not that gigantic, but just in terms of like the facial makeup and everything, I think it looks pretty on point when you compare it to a lot of those other 80s werewolf properties that are out there. As for the Colbert's vampire looks, it was really just the pale makeup and then the fangs coming out. It's kind of the same exact design that's been used for most of the vampires throughout the Crypt run, funny enough. Like, Comes the Dawn, I think, is the only episode that really presents vampires looking far different from what we've seen in all of their other appearances throughout the show. So not a bad thing in the least bit, just don't expect some spectacular vampire design to be showing up here in this one, honestly. There's like obviously some scares that pop up from the idea of these adults attempting to feast on a child and taking the butler out before. There's no denying of that at all. But again, the problem is that everything is just reserved until the third act. And had we seen like bits and pieces, maybe Theodore finds like blood packs or dead bodies or something to start highlighting the tension and that there's something wrong at the Colbert's house, that likely would have added a little bit more here. But without it, there's just not much going on till we get to the last 5 minutes or so of the episode itself. So bit of a bummer here for it. Unfortunately, I was hoping for just a little bit more out of it. I have it ranked at 16 right now of the episodes that I've seen. It just doesn't hold my interest that much. The third act is pretty great, but overall, just hoping for a little bit more out of it. Folks, I want to hear what you're thinking about these two episodes, The Third Pig and The Secret, in the comment section. If you've seen this one, let me know your thoughts and your memories that you have here for this. And of course, get subscribed to my link tree. The best way to do that is go to linktr.ee/T Scary Movie. If you get subscribed, that's going to give you access to the YouTube page for video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platforms, the audio-only versions of the show, my Letterboxd page for written reviews and movie rankings through the year, my TikTok page for short horror content including movie news, movie premieres, and movie reviews, my Twitch page for horror gaming including Phasmophobia, and my Fangoria shop page where you can enjoy a 20% discount off anything at the Fangoria shop. Take advantage of this, y'all. Hit that subscribe button. We got a lot of great stuff coming up. We're going to be talking Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, which just recently celebrated its 30th anniversary. We're going to be talking Street Trash, the original Toxic Avenger, Good Boy, more Dexter Resurrection, Alien Earth. Got a lot of stuff on the schedule for y'all. Don't want you to miss anything at all. But that is going to do it for me tonight. I appreciate you guys tuning in. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.